right, so we are back again with our Watch of the Three Body Problem. I am wearing my Eerie Eclipse shirt today. Thinking about episode 5, I mean, seems, based on what I've heard and based on what we saw, to be the big oomph episode for this season. And I suspect the next 3 episodes are going to be sort of winding things down, setting up things for future seasons. That's a pattern that these writers had with Game of Thrones, where the penultimate episode of each season would have the big battle or the big murder or the big wedding where everyone died or something like that. And then the last episode of the season will be winding things down, setting up the next season and so forth. I think that's a kind of a good pattern to have with TV shows, where each season is kind of enclosed but also connected. So you're not having these, big rush at the end of the season to sort of wrap up everything. We'll see what science concepts come in here. I suspect episode 5 was the big one where they had the sophons and the carbon nanofibers and stuff like that. But we'll see where we go with concepts here with episode 6 of the Three Body Problem.
The Prime Minister is urging people to be calm and vigilant. In his widely televised speech today, he reiterated that the Santee will not be here for 400 years.
Mandatory curfews are in place in major urban areas across the U.S.
We must begin preparations for future generations today.
We started the stars are.
I am skeptical that people would react this way. Possibly, we don't know. We've never had an encounter with aliens, but I think a lot of people would respond with disbelief. A lot of people would respond with calm. A lot of people would say, yeah, it's 400 years, who cares? I really doubt that you'd have global, I think people would be disturbed and you'd see the effects, but I doubt you'd have like global riots or something like this. But of course, we don't know, because the number of aliens we have encountered is 0. Sometimes human beings surprise you with how they react, and sometimes they act as bad as you think they would.
You betrayed everyone alive. Everyone is going to be born. For what? So that aliens who think we're bugs can come here and kill us all?
So that they could save us.
Didn't you see the eye in the sky? Do you really think they're still trying to save us?
No. They learned the truth about us. We lie, we deceive. There's a darkness in us that they cannot understand.
Very fanatical, quasi-religious response. She didn't make a mistake. There's nothing wrong with the Santee. We failed them.
I was willing to risk everything. I saw the path we were on. I saw where it led.
I. Who gave you the right to decide for all of us?
Tell her, Jin.
Yeah, Vera always said you were a great physicist. But that's not how you'll be remembered.
And I'm sure opinion on the internet is divided. I've made it very clear where I stand on this aliens versus humans thing, that I'm 100% in Jin's corner.
Now, there's only 2 sophons. They can be anywhere, but they can't be everywhere. I've ordered every particle accelerator on the planet to start up again, 24/7. Now, how busy do you reckon that'll keep man past sophon?
Not very. One sophon can circumnavigate the planet in an 1/8 of a second.
There's 2,000 accelerators.
All right, let's say you align the schedules and have experiments on opposite sides of the globe happen at regular intervals. That might keep one sophon going indefinitely. Better yet, build one on the moon.
The moon?
Why not? It's 3 seconds there and back.
The capabilities of the sophons are being massively overstated. She's saying, well, they can move at the speed of light. But again, each reactor is doing thousands of reactions. The Large Hadron Collider alone is doing 1 billion reactions. That's going to keep both sophons infinitely busy forever. But I do like what she says here about putting one on the moon or into deep space. That would keep them traveling back and forth to try to keep busy and so forth. Again, I don't know where they're supposed to be getting all this energy to accelerate and decelerate and move around at the speed of light, and how they're avoiding the time distortion, which is going to slow things down for them. But we'll roll with it for now.
Find me a way to get a probe to 1% light speed or faster utilizing existing technology. If you can dream up a solution, I want you to come down to Witchwood Manor and present your proposal.
There is a solution to that. I'm going to wait and see what they say in the series, but there is a way that many very serious people think we could do right now to get a probe to not just 1% of the speed of light, but maybe even up to 10% of the speed of light.
After I'm gone, you buy yourself a wood chip.
Uh-huh.
Put me in, turn me into a fine mist rising into the ozone.
But I don't think a wood chipper would aerosolize your
Oh,
body.
don't be a
into
smart ass. Right, this is my last will and testament. Have some goddamn respect.
So it shall be.
It's kind of interesting because I've been talking to some people online about what they feel about the series, and especially the Oxford Five, the main 5 scientists that are the main characters. And I hear people say, oh, I don't like this one, I don't like that one. But it's usually different ones that they don't like. I like all 5 of the main characters, so I'm fine with it. But it's kind of interesting how that dynamic is playing out there in the fandom.
The English really suck at beaches.
That's true. I think half the reason the British built an empire was so they could have good beaches.
Imagine a series of 1,000 nuclear devices, evenly spaced in distance, stretching from Earth toward the Santi Fleet. Now, these bombs could be put in place using existing spacecraft. The probe would have a mass of under 1,000 kilograms and be propelled by a radiation sail. As the probe passes the first bomb, it detonates, accelerating it towards the second, which detonates, accelerating it again, and again, and again. If we can precisely time the detonations as the probe passes and impart 30 kilonewtons of force on the probe per explosion, the compounding rate of acceleration will mean that we can reach 1.12% light speed after 1,000 explosions.
I haven't checked her math here, but this idea is real. There was this idea in the I think it's in the 1960s and 70s actually, called Project Orion, where you would have a rocket that was propelled by nuclear explosions. And it's not as crazy as it sounds. I take that back. It is as crazy as it sounds, but it would actually potentially work. That you're creating this massive amount of energy, and if even a fraction of it can go into propelling the rocket, you're going to get acceleration. Remember how rockets work. Most rockets work by creating a chemical reaction, mass is blown out the back, momentum balances, and the rocket shifts forward. In this case, you're setting off an explosion that's going to propel the rocket. It's going to sort of ride this shock wave to high accelerations. The problem with Project Orion is that it's, one, people don't like the idea of setting off nuclear weapons in space, but also it's difficult to control the impulse. When you have this massive explosion, you're going to give the rocket an impulse of something like 1,000 Gs, and that's going to destroy anything and everyone on board. So you're getting up to high speed, but it's not going to be very useful to you. I think in a previous video, I talked about the idea of solar sails. You can have this massive sail, and as particles and photons come in, they strike the sail, imparting momentum to it, and that gives you a constant acceleration. A solar sail would move very slowly at first. It would maybe move a few meters in the first few weeks, but it's a constant acceleration. So it's constantly being accelerated. So it would eventually get up to very, very high speeds because it's just never ending fuel to push this forward. What she's talking about, and I think this is a real proposal called Medusa, is where you have one of these big sails. It's kind of a solar sail on steroids. Instead of waiting for the sun to accelerate you create a nuclear explosion. The photons and particles from that explosion hit the sail, creating this massive acceleration. And if I remember correctly, the way it overcomes the G problem is that you have the sail on a tether. It blows out at a huge momentum that pulls the tether, creating an electrical current in the spaceship, and then you slowly reel in the tether from that stored electricity to get up to that speed. It's not an infeasible idea, and you would need a lot of technological breakthroughs and a lot of will to do it, but this is quite sensible. The proposal I've heard is called Starshot, and there are people who think we could actually do this, where instead of using nuclear propulsion like that, you would build gigantic lasers and shine those on the solar sail. And there are people out there who are very serious-minded who think that this is feasible using existing technology, and that we could get a very tiny probe up to 1/10 of the speed of light maybe, and get to, say, Alpha Centauri in 50 years, something like that, a human lifetime. And the thing that friends of mine had conversations with them about was, what would you send? The cargo, because every gram of mass is so critical, the cargo would be very, very small, only a few 100 grams or a few kilograms at most. And so could you build something that could collect data during its quick flyby of the Alpha Centauri system? Could you build something that could broadcast that information back to Earth so that we could pick it up? So this is what she's talking about here is it's very out there science, but it's not, completely made up science fiction nonsense. And so the skepticism of the scientists here kind of catching me by surprise a little bit. I mean, it's a movie, so you have to have some people saying, no, you can't do that. But what she's describing is probably the exact same way I would propose to do this.
It's a very creative notion, but it's totally untested with zero margin
And
for
it
error.
would surely violate more than a few nuclear treaties.
Not to mention the cost. Trillions?
Valid points.
Reasonable objections, yes.
Treaties can be amended. Our job is to come up with a solution to a scientific problem. It's someone else's job to come up with the money, and there's no version of this that doesn't require a lot of money. I agree, the margin for error is small, but it's not impossible.
Meanwhile, an ambitious new initiative, The Stars Our Destination, is attracting the attention of the world's wealthiest individuals. For donations in the reported 8 to 9 figure range, the richest men and women have acquired ownership rights over stars in the Milky Way galaxy. Rights which most
I don't get it.
scholars concede.
It's a fundraiser for the war effort.
I just want a beer. Any beer.
The pub might be getting something tonight if you're willing to fight the crowd.
Is there any chance I could pre-order 5 bottles of your next shipment of really good whiskey?
What do you have in mind?
Macallan 30.
Pricey stuff.
I've come into a bit of money.
That's unavailable till the new year. Can you wait?
I will be unavailable then as well.
Kind of pandemic vibes here, that these things are not available, there's supply chain issues, blah, blah, blah. I think they're taking more than a bit of inspiration from that.
I have to say, sir, I know this one. The window. It's sealed shut, and you asked me to open it to see how I respond to an impossible task. Do I give up? Do I use some kind of tool? Do I break the window?
Job interviews.
2 minutes.
Yes, sir.
You'll love it on Mare Imbrium.
Mare Imbrium? On the moon?
We're building a base there. It's where we're going to assemble the ships. Lower gravity, larger ships. Dangerous work, but it'll get you your commendations if you survive. Close the window on your way out.
Let me just check a second. Mare Imbrium. What he's saying here actually makes a lot of sense. In fact, I've put it in my own fiction as well. That if you want to build spaceships, if you did have the facilities, mining things on the moon and boosting it up into orbit from there and assembling in space or something like that is going to save you a lot of effort because you're not at the bottom of a gravity well. Now, whether the moon would have those resources, whether it's economically feasible to build a base on the moon to take advantage of the lower gravity well, that's another ballgame. But this is a fairly reasonable idea. Mare Imbrium is one of the larger seas on the moon, so a good place to build a fleet, I think. And looks like, I'm looking at this, the chemical composition of the lunar mare. They are low in water, high in titanium oxide, high in iron oxide and magnesium oxide. Yeah, maybe that would be a good place to build. Boy, and I thought last week had a lot of science.
I need a radiation sail. About 5 square kilometers in area, but with a mass of less than 50 kilograms.
No.
Everything depends on this nano sail, and there's no one who can design it besides you.
I said no.
We've got some of the best physicists in the world working on this. The resources are insane.
The last time we gave the best physicists in the world insane resources, they gave us Hiroshima.
No, I'm not designing a weapon.
Not yet.
I mean, I kind of don't completely blame Augie. I think there's a parallel to her and UNJ, that she saw this thing she used in a very horrifying manner, even if it was completely necessary. There's a sort of, I mean, last year we had Oppenheimer and the guilt he felt about building the atomic bomb. I think that's, they're really drawing a very strong parallel to that. So I get it. I think she's wrong, but I also get it.
He is the one who wants to send a dying man to London to pour his heart out to a girl and ruin their perfectly lovely friendship.
Yes. You should absolutely do that.
She has a boyfriend.
Again.
Well, it's your work. It's the one thing you can't give up on.
Yeah.
Be okay.
He doesn't want to ruin things.
Right. We're cleared to release the prisoner at 1200 hours. She's free to go wherever she likes, but I want a full report of her movements every 4 hours. Understood?
Wondering if the Santi are going to kill her now.
Ouch.
What?
That blow. She wouldn't have come all the way down here if she didn't need you.
No. I'd rather stay with you. And even you.
I think the holiday's almost over.
I do notice they're making like subtle touches on makeup and so forth to make him look more sick. Another thing I hate in movies is where they call it, what are they? Ally McGraw syndrome, where the main result of someone having a terminal illness is they get more ethereal and beautiful as they get closer and closer to death. And I like that they're showing that this is really painful and difficult and just draining the life out of him. Having, you know, it's, I think, well done.
Which one is that?
So, with the probe going 1% light speed one way and the enemy going 1% light speed the other way, we'd have a few nanoseconds at best to gather information on the fleet.
That won't be a problem.
And we have to assume that they know the spy probe is coming because of the sophons. They'll destroy it.
That won't be a problem either.
Why won't it be a problem?
They won't destroy the probe.
So they're just going to let it sail through the fleet and take pictures?
They'll pick it up.
Pick it up?
We're not sending a camera. We're sending a human being.
Interesting.
I have an appointment for William Downing.
Ah, yes, Mr. Downing. Do you know much about the Stars Our Destination? We could begin with the interactive presentation.
No, that won't be necessary. I've already made up my mind. I'm here to buy a star.
It's you, it's all for...
I'm hoping they'll give us a little bit more details on what this Stars Our Destination stuff is. I think they're selling the legal rights to stars to raise money for the war effort. I don't know how you would have someone get legal ownership of a star. That's a bit out there. I mean, if there are aliens there, you can't really sell the star they own, and if it's 500 years away, how do you own that? There are organizations like the International Star Registry where you can register a star in someone's name. That has no real standing in the scientific community. It's sold as a novelty, and they have their little star registry, which is fine. I, for one, am not very comfortable with it because I think it's giving people the impression that this star is now named after them, and it really isn't. But I don't know how that connects to this particular organization that he's talking about. So hopefully we'll find out more about that. Anyway, episode 6 I thought was actually really good. A lot of character stuff, which I like. A lot of a little bit of moving the plot forward, especially with this staircase project that they're talking about. That is the main scientific issue in this episode, and I think it is pretty spot on what the way they talk about it, the way they describe it. And it is out there science, but it is stuff we have been talking about for decades as a potential way, if we ever needed to get a spacecraft up to a significant fraction of speed of light, that we could do it. And so yeah, no real big issues with this episode, unlike the last episode. So no tirade this time, no demonstrations on my coffee table or anything like that. Just general approval of the episode. Looking forward to the next 2. Till then, I'm Mike Siegel. I write for Ordinary Times. Thank you for watching.